That's there is a little part, but I wasn't doing it. Yeah, it's just a soft thing out of the Amida. Uh, do 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 do. I'm just doodling now.
Are we singing?
I'll be back in just a second. I know that I need. I'll be here, but you know, thanks.
Kind of just a variation. Wait, then where did it? Are all my papers? Oh, they're my papers.
Got new candle holders while I was gone. Those will be
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
All together.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Shabbat
Shalom. Join us. Shabbat Shalom. The words are easy. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's so good to be together here. It's so good to be in this beautiful place. We're privileged to be together to mark Shabbat in this setting, in this place. And before we enter further into Shabbat, let's take a moment of quiet, of silence, of breathing, of just taking in this place and being here together. Have a moment to reflect on the past week and to begin to let all that go. All right? So take a moment. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Tomorrow, Ethan Kane will become Bar Mitzvah, and it's a pleasure to invite him forward with his family members, with Alana and David and Renata, to light candles and to enter us into this sacred time. The blessings are on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Say her. Say her.
Stay
Ethan, come on to page 5. Here, wait, I can find it for you. All right. Grab that cup of wine. You see that cup of wine? Pick it up. There you go.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam,
borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivan
קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen.
I am.
Have a little drink.
Awesome, tough guys.
Well done.
Sit down.
Shake my hand. Well done. Well done. Good job. I figure most of you know us, and you might not know him. This is Gabriel Lehrman. He's our cantorial intern, and he's been here already for a month. In fact, there's only about a month more that we'll be able to be like this and study and learn with him and lead services together with Gabriel. So I want you to take advantage of the weeks that are coming, all right? He's teaching a tremendous class that has another session next week. You can learn more about that online. Now, Gabriel is not the only member of his family who is pursuing a career in religious leadership, I shall say, right? He's becoming a cantor in a few years. His sister, Cheva, will be a rabbi, will be ordained as a rabbi in a little bit over a year, if I'm not mistaken. There's a third sibling, and it's important we note that they have a third sibling, Jesse, who's a very wise person and very skilled. He's decided to take his wisdom and skill and apply it in a different area, and that might be a sign of his wisdom, for all I know. But Cheva's with us, and we want to invite Cheva forward to sing Lecha Dodi together with us. So we continue with these words, welcoming Shabbat on page 20 or 138. Likrat Kala, Yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, Mikavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, Mikavela. Yalalai, 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 We continue with our call to prayer. Baruch Hu, page 28 for 146. Welcome evening with these words on page 31. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Join us in these words.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark.
Roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Light becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Roll becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Amen. Please be seated.
We turn to the words of V'ahavta on page 36 or 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We turn now to page 40 or 158 for the words of Michamocha, our Song of Freedom.
וגאלום יער חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני כל ישראל.
You know what that sound means. Page 44 or 162, we sing the words of Ishamru.
Shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם.
ששת ימים עשה אדוני
את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם.
וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת
Shabbat vayinapash, Shabbat vayinapash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We'll turn to the words of the Amidah, our standing prayer, starting on page 46 or 164. We'll chant the first few blessings together and then have some time for quiet. When you're finished with your own personal prayers, you can be seated. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol Bezocher Chasei Avot Ve'imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Ve'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Morid Hatal Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Ve'Rofeh Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Umidomelach Melech Memid Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah leHachayot HaKol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kedoshim Lilucha le'alucha Selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
while we're in the middle of services, it's a nice opportunity to kind of remember or to think about the things that are important to us, the things that we value, the way in which we want to see the world be perfect. And it's also important to remember that we are impacting that world. We create that world. And so it's on us to make that world happen. And this song is kind of about that. It goes like this. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Try that. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. One more time. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world.
A feeling of loss and sadness pervades this week's Torah portion, Chukat, that we read of both the death of Aaron and also of Miriam. In a single portion, Moses loses his siblings. And the Torah emphasizes the caring relationship that, in particular, that Moses had for his sister Miriam. In the previous portion, when Miriam is ill, Moses cries out to God in these well-known words, El na rafana la. God, please heal her. He cries out those words on behalf of his sister. And in these moments, we turn to thinking of our sisters and our brothers, our family members and our friends for whom we need to cry out for their healing. We want to teach to some of you. I know some of you may have heard this setting before for these words of Moses, but we want to teach this setting for Misha Berach before we use it for Misha Berach.
So the words are simple. There's 5 words. And the words go Ana, Elna, Rafa, Na, La. Try that with me. Ana, Elna, Rafa, Na, La. One more time. Ana, Elna, Rafa, Na, La. So the tune goes like this. Ana, Elna, Rafa, Na, La. Ana, Elna. And that's everything. Ana, Elna, Rafa, Na, La. Ana, Elna. Ana, Elna, Rafa, Na, La. Ana, Elna. One more time to make sure you get it. Ana, Elna, Rafa, Na, La. Ana, Elna. Nice.
So on this evening, on this Shabbat, we call out for the healing of Ken Adler, Julie Arnheim, Yolanda Azucena, Susan Carlson, Abigail Covert, Rabia Ergelin, Leonard Frank, Max Gentry, Jim Gill, Selena Glater, Faith Gobedy, Sarah Guido, Dorothy Huppert, Moritz Huppert, Marvin Jones, Arnie Kaufman, Harold Muckamal, Dmitry Noshenko, Sophia Palizban, Donna Perlman, Dr. Mark Perlroth, Rabbi Lori Phillips, Peggy Pizzo, Dale Prinstein, Harriet Shane, Steve Shane, Howard Schwartz, Stephen Avraham Simon, David Baruch Ben Simona, Matthew Smith, Linda Wan, Nicole Gent Wickenheiser, Katie Wilson, Marie Wolf. Are there other names? This night we continue a wonderful summer tradition here at Beth Am of learning from our members. And each week during the summer, a different one of our members will offer a Devar Torah. And on this night, it's a pleasure to invite forward Emily Nagaonkar, who has been part of our community since 2013 and a member of our board for the past 2 years. Hi, how are you? It's pretty windy.
Good evening. In addition to what Rabbi Morrison shared, is this better? I am one of the facilitators of the Facing Our Truths workshop. And through a Jewish lens, this workshop explores race, privilege, power, and the biases that we all hold. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. I was raised in a liberal, white Jewish family in the 80s and 90s. We lived in the Metro Detroit suburbs that boasted racial and ethnic diversity, albeit in an upper middle class setting. Among other seemingly progressive notions, I was taught that the color of a person's skin doesn't matter. The idea behind this is that everyone was equal and that race was a non-issue. In school, we learned pervasive messages that America was the great melting pot. This was said with enthusiasm and not taking into consideration the unique qualities and distinctiveness of each culture and subculture. We certainly didn't grapple with structural racism, all of the ways in which people of color experience racism on a daily basis, the impact on their lives and communities, and the immensity of violence against people of color. I then went to college at the University of Wisconsin and took a class in the African American Studies department. We read the piece, White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. The author, Peggy McIntosh, shares that she had been taught to see racism only in individual acts of meanness, not in invisible systems conferring dominance. She demonstrates in her writing that this is not the case. McIntosh took this enormous, heavy phrase, white privilege, and made it tangible to me. She lists numerous instances where her white skin gives her inherent privilege. Perhaps unsurprisingly, all 26 circumstances listed were a yes for me. To name just a few, I can go into a music shop and count on finding the music of my race represented, into a hairdresser's shop and find someone who can cut my hair. I'm never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group. I can be sure that if I need legal or medical help, my race will not work against me. This piece was written in 1989, and while some of the markers have moved, we have a long way to go. The racism, widespread structural inequalities, and interpersonal violence permeate our society. Almost 2 decades ago, reading and discussing this piece felt incredibly uncomfortable. I can't say that I took actions or great strides to right these wrongs. I don't know that I had the tools, and I certainly didn't have the informal community. All of my friends at the time were white, and my close friends from childhood were white and Jewish. So I read the piece, I discussed it inside and out of the classroom, and then I put it to the side, because as a white person, it was something I could choose to put aside. Much more recently, I read the book, So You Want to Talk About Race. The author, Ijeoma Oluo, writes, "Being privileged doesn't mean that you are always wrong and that people without privilege are always right. It means that there is a good chance you are missing a few very important pieces of the puzzle. It's not all or nothing. This is complex and draining, and when it gets to be too much, I have the privilege to put down the book, close my laptop, and pause the conversation. For the almost 50 million Black Americans, they don't have this luxury. And that doesn't mean that I should beat myself up about it, but that I must be cognizant of what is happening in communities across America and what actions must be taken in order for change to occur." About 6 years ago, I fell in love with a man with darker skin who came from a different country. Just by living with Harsh, he opened my eyes to the world that he lives in. There have been numerous situations that we experience completely differently simply due to our race and color of our skin. He gets questions asked of him that I've never received. He thinks about, proactively plans for, and responds to interactions that I never think about. In my social settings, places of employment, and in my religious community, I've never given a second thought to my race or ethnicity. This is just not true for him. I was already active in Beth Am, and in 2016, we started participating in the community as a couple. We got involved in the young adult programming, Now the Orchard. We were married by Rabbi Sarah in an interfaith, intercultural ceremony. In 2020, Beth Am developed the Racial Equity and Justice Initiative, and we were invited to participate. I joined in an early meeting where multiple Beth Am members shared their personal stories at Beth Am that involved race. There were instances of being othered on all levels. And while some of these interactions may have been well-intentioned, the reality was that hurtful comments were being directed at Beth Am members. This was the first time for me that Judaism and racism was discussed in the same space. Beth Am has been at the forefront for intermarriage, LGBTQ inclusiveness, and big tent practices. However, when we're talking about race, this is an area we can improve upon within the Jewish community and outside of it. While Beth Am and the Jewish world is acknowledging areas of growth, what I do find troubling is when this is posited as a zero-sum game. The assumption is that if we focus on issues of race, it will lessen other inequalities and instances of violence, such as anti-Semitism. As Jews, we know what it feels like to be othered and to be victims of violence and persecution. To me, issues of race are intrinsically linked to Judaism. I grew up in a conservative Ashkenazi synagogue. I don't remember seeing any congregants who weren't white. Early in my Jewish education, I remember learning about the writing from a German Lutheran pastor in 1946 about the silence of Germans. Many people have seen the quote that is displayed in the Holocaust Memorial Center. And then they came for me. The premise is that people and groups that hold privilege, that are safe, must speak up and take action for those who do not. Most of us have that privilege. I don't believe any of what I am saying is political. Part of my upbringing was the verse from the book of Deuteronomy, Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof, which translates to, justice, justice, you shall pursue. Judaism, and the Reform movement in particular, is built upon social justice. This is what draws me and has connected my husband to Judaism. These are fundamental human rights issues. In the book I mentioned earlier, So You Want to Talk About Race, she notes, our humanity is worth a little discomfort. It's actually worth a lot of discomfort. Refusing to have a dialogue about race will not resolve these issues. It will only perpetuate them and allow them to fester. How can we be advocates, anti-racists, and create any meaningful change when we can't talk about it? We must acknowledge the blatant and unknowing ways we have contributed, and we must feel uncomfortable. Professionally, I'm a social worker, and when facilitating a support group one time, I reflected on how often we use the word but. When we have feelings of guilt, shame, or when we say something out loud that is uncomfortable, we pit those emotions or realities against each other. The group I was leading was not about race, but I found it a useful tool when reframing my thoughts. So I encourage folks to replace the word but with and. Both things can be true. We can take strides and participate in causes for racial equality and recognize that we have benefited from many structures in our society. We can acknowledge this is critical work and have other commitments and keepers of our time and energy. We can do everything in our daily lives to be anti-racist and still live with privilege if we have white skin. We can commit to taking action against racism on an individual, community, and macro level while also fighting other injustices. We can read the books, attend the lectures, join in the discussions, and acknowledge that we have so much to learn. I don't know what my children will look like or how they will experience the world they live in. I do know we have increasingly diverse Jewish communities. I greatly appreciate the commitment the Jewish synagogues and organizations are making to bring these issues to light. We must spend the time, energy, and resources and do deep work to truly make a difference. I look forward to continuing this journey along with my Beth Am community. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Emily. We turn in our service to the words of Aleinu L'Shabeach on page 282. These are words that celebrate our Jewish distinctiveness, and we can say that they celebrate diversity. So 282, 586. If you're able, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You can be seated. We prepare for the prayer of memory, page 290 or 594. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. This week, the Bethlehem community mourns the loss of Roberto Juarez Crow, brother of Luis Crow, brother-in-law of Bianca, and Linda Sherry, mother of Angela Evans, mother-in-law of Justin, and grandmother of Adeline and Ella. If I say the name of your loved one, please rise in their honor. We also, this week, mourn the loss of the victims of the shooting in Highland Park, as well as victims of gun violence all over the world. We're observing Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning for Stephen Gewurtz, Christopher Mateo, and Jeffrey Wishko. And we are observing the yahrzeit, the anniversary of death this week, of Grace Anisman, Sarah Asen, Ralph Barkoff, Yona Berman, Betsy Birnbaum, Esther Birnbaum, Errol Blank, Lisa Brown Flagg, Sophie Katz Brownstein, Chava Bookman, Selig Chaikin, David Check, Zella Mayer Cunningham, Eileen Eisenson, Rhea Elaine Zins, Alan File, Melvin Fields, Norman Fox, Marilyn Friedman, Alan Harvey Gobedy, Fania Gerfinkel, William D. Harris, Arlene Herman, Ruth Hope, Stephen Camberg, Vladimir Heiken, Jack Kirkwood, Murray Kirsch, Dora Kirschbaum, Ann Krieger, Samuel Kropp, Lawrence Lasky, Rachel Ann Lawrence, Samuel Lehrman, Ralph Leindorf, Ruth Leindorf, Yetta Levinston, Meyer Levinson, May Caesar Levy, Florence Lillian Stein, Elisabetta Lifshitz, Ethel Lundy, Andy Main, Isaac Mordechai Manoff, Leslie Margulies, Charles Malenko, Pauline Miller, Jackie Morgan, Sylvia Mullins, Joseph Podolsky, Eva Rado, Doris Renwick, Louis Schreier, Arthur Seidman, Oded Stockelman, Bernard J. Schultz, Bennett Steinmuller, Zoe Stevens, Rita Stock, Michelle Sugarman, Leah Tomsky, Jaco Vexler, Vanya Vilenskia, Branch White, Rosamund Weiland, and Marie Zuckerman. If there's someone else you're missing tonight, please rise and share their names with us. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We join together in words of Kaddish on page 294 or 598. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama Rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen.
Before we conclude our services this evening, I want to remind you that this month we are collecting tzedakah for Yad Sarah, the largest volunteer staffed organization in Israel, which provides a vital array of compassionate health and home care services for people of all ages there. And I also want to alert you to a name that I mentioned, I read for Misha Berach tonight. That name is Dmitry Noshenko. And Dmitry is the husband of Eugenia Noshenko, who is the leader, the lay leader of Beth Am and Poltava. Dmitry was critically wounded in the fighting and perhaps from a bombardment in Poltava, and is now receiving critical care. I raise up his plight to remind us of the needs of that community. That, if anything, the needs of the Jewish community, and of course, all of the Ukrainians, the plight it's dire. And so, in addition to collecting for Yad Sarah, we continue to collect through our Poltava, our Odessa Poltava fund. And I promise you those monies are going directly to help folks in need there, and also to help with Jewish communities that are now being formed and reformed, for instance, in Poland and also in Israel. So I urge you to give and to give generously. You can do that online. And of course, you can also use our tzedakah box, which is somewhere back there, and you can use Venmo. Finally, tomorrow evening in this space, right here at 5 o'clock, we are joining together for an interfaith Havdalah service with our friends from Christ Episcopal Church. And we're having a Havdalah. Havdalah means separation. And we are marking the separation that many of us are experiencing as a result of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And so I want to invite you to join us here tomorrow night at 5. It'll be an hour of Havdalah, but also of solidarity and of recommitment to the work that lies ahead. We conclude our service tonight with perhaps the most important words of peace. Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom b'romav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Amen. Oseh shalom v'romav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Amen. Hey, Oseh shalom b'romav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Take good care.
All right.